My first 16 years were pretty barrier free. We're quite privileged and we're quite easy when it comes to challenge. I was sitting up the back of my classroom at school. I was looking at the diagram the teacher was drawing on the board up the front of the classroom. Something didn't seem quite right about this diagram. I'm turning to my mate, my friend beside me. I'm saying, does that diagram on the board, does that look blurry to you? And my friend's sitting there saying, what do you mean by blurry? So we get to hospital, we get a whole heap of tests done, test after test after test, and eventually the doctor sits us down, mum, dad and me, and delivers the news that it's nothing serious. Mum and dad left, nurse said, Ben, get some rest, close your eyes, we'll see you in the morning. She closed those bluey-green hospital curtains around my bed, and the next morning when I woke up, I looked to the bedside table beside me for my phone, but it was gone. I then looked towards the end of the bed where I'd watched the TV that was hanging on the curtain rail the night before, and it was gone. And I'm laying in bed thinking, what's still here that I definitely know is still here? I could feel my hands, I'm holding them up in front of my face, and I couldn't even see those. I'd lost 98% of my eyesight overnight, just like that. And at the time, there wasn't a single part of me that thought this is forever, that this is unfixable, that this is incurable.
The diagnosis of a rare genetic condition robbing a young man of his eyesight wasn't enough to stop him pursuing the things he loves. As Joe Hall reports, it's only made the Melbourne motivational speaker more determined to live life to the full.
Trailhead full of
Fear or limiting belief about something.
I met a strange lady, she made me nervous. She took me in and gave me breakfast. And she said,
On top of the running, I'll also be doing it with only 2% eyesight. I lost 98% of my eyesight overnight at age 16 due to a rare genetic condition. We're all resilient, but like you said, the attitude of that person as the victim is so much different to somebody who embraces their situation.
buying bread from a man in Brussels.
Challenges provide us opportunities to grow in our business, to excel and get better if we're prepared to take them.
I said, do you speak my language?
And adapt and overcome, and in pivoting and getting it right, there's so much practice goes into that, and I feel like that's such a life lesson, but also for business.
He does know and mention her.
And get pulled through the call.
There's a big difficulty without being able to see.
You better run, you better take cover. Yeah.
Ben, it is so great to finally have you on the podcast. I know we've been planning this for a while, but welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm pumped to be here.
You're such an inspiration for so many people. I mean, I've just watched you go from strength to strength. We are laughing about it, but I said you're doing it like a fine wine. You're getting better and better.
Yeah, I think my grey hair probably, my grey hair coming through that my wife tells me are there, and I absolutely argue are not because I can't see them. That'd probably attest to maturing with age as well.
Benny, how do you cultivate resilience in the face of such extreme adversity? Like, tell us a little bit about your story firstly. For those of you, I want them to get an idea through your voice, what happened to you and how you've maintained this level of excellence in your life, regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. I think resilience first and foremost. I don't think it's something that we're necessarily born with. I think it's built over time through experience, but I think we all have the ability to execute and use the resilience that is inside of us. It just takes sometimes some adversity, some change, some challenge to actually reveal what we're truly made of. But like you say, let's go back to where it all started. And for me, I'll be completely honest, Jazzy, my first 16 years were pretty barrier free. We're quite privileged, and we're quite easy when it comes to challenge, and that all changed, as you just said in your intro there, overnight at age 16. So I was sitting up the back of my classroom at school. I was looking at the diagram the teacher was drawing on the board up the front of the classroom. Something didn't seem quite right about this diagram. I'm turning to my mate, my friend beside me. I'm saying, does that diagram on the board, does that look blurry to you? And my friend's sitting there saying, what do you mean by blurry? Like, it's clear, it's like it normally is. I don't know what you mean. And when I say blurry, Juzzy, it's similar to that feeling that we all get when you look at either a bright light or the sun for a split second too long. Then when you look away, it just takes that split second to readjust. You know that feeling?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So that's similar to what it was like, this tiny little bit hazy, tiny little bit blurry, like having sort of a mini headache, and something just wasn't quite right. I could still see everything fine, but it just wasn't quite right. And then I just had that gut instinct, that intuition that I need to talk to someone about this. I need to get some advice, some guidance, not sure exactly what to do. Called my parents, told them. They had very different reactions, I'll be honest. Dad was like, look, mate, don't worry about it. We'll just wait and see what happens. Mum was like, absolutely not. We're going to hospital. We're going to hospital now. Let's go.
As mums do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love her to death, but far out, she can stress out. So mum obviously takes charge, and dad doesn't get his way with his advice. We end up at a special eye hospital in Melbourne, in Australia, where I'm from. So we get to hospital, we get a whole heap of tests done, test after test after test. And eventually the doctor sits us down, mum, dad, and me, and delivers the news that it's nothing serious. It's very common. It's just an inflammation of the optic nerve, which is the cord that joins the back of your eye to the back of your brain. Basically, that was bigger than it should be. And the doctor said, look, don't worry about this at all. Easy fix, put you on some medication, you'll be fine. We'll send you home in the morning, and in 1 month, everything will be back to normal. So we were all thinking, great, nothing to worry about. Headed up to the top level of the hospital, into the ward, room full of 10 beds. Mum and dad left. Nurse said, Ben, get some rest. Close your eyes. We'll see you in the morning. She closed those bluey-green hospital curtains around my bed, and after winding down, I put my phone down on the bedside table, closed my eyes, tried to get some rest. The next morning, when I woke up, opened my eyes and looked for, let's be honest, Juzzy, the first thing that most of us around the world these days look for when we wake up, which is our phone.
Yeah.
I looked to the bedside table beside me for my phone, but it was gone.
Oh,
I then looked towards the end of the bed where I'd watched the TV that was hanging on the curtain rather the night before, and it was gone. And I'm laying in bed thinking, what's still here that I definitely know is still here? I could feel my hands. I'm holding them up in front of my face, and I couldn't even see those.
wow. Oh
Because,
my
yeah,
gosh.
like you said, I'd lost 98% of my eyesight overnight, just like that. And at the time, there wasn't a single part of me that thought this is forever, that this is unfixable, that this is incurable. I just thought, look, doctors will come in, they'll go, oh yeah, this is common as well, because you don't sort of think that
Never.
things aren't fixable, especially when I was already in hospital. I'd been given medication. Maybe it was a side effect of the steroids. Who knows? At that point in time, there was never a moment that I thought this is forever, but it was only after sort of the shock of the doctors and the nurses, then the shock of my family, all of their reactions, and then 2 weeks of prolonged testing, that over that 2-week period, I started to think, my eyesight hasn't gotten any better. This isn't changing. Maybe this is forever. Maybe this is real. And yeah, 2 weeks later, we got the call to come back into hospital and got delivered the news that it wasn't what they originally thought, that inflammation. It was a rare genetic syndrome called Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy, which is an absolute mouthful. But it
Unreal.
doesn't really matter what it's called, I suppose. It just matters about the impact that it actually has on your life. And I got told pretty simply by the doctor, Ben, I'm sorry to say, it's incurable, can't be fixed. You'll be done for life.
I can't even imagine, but the one thing that I do know, and especially knowing you as a person, you embody a sense of gratefulness and resilience that honestly I've really never seen in my life. But how did you cultivate resilience in the face of such extreme adversity, and then also just maintain this level of, I remember I heard you speaking about the fact like you were such an avid sports person. It's funny because you are that now, like I feel like you're an extreme sports person now. So you never actually let it bother you. But how do you maintain that level of resilience?
I think you develop it, to be honest. I think it's developed over time. And often when I'm on stage speaking, I ask audiences all the time. And I ask people, I'll ask you right now, do you think it would be helpful for you to be more resilient? What's your answer?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. And it's people's natural response to say, yeah, I'd love to be more resilient. It would help me the next time things go wrong. I'm faced with adversity, whether it be personally, professionally, running my business, whatever that happens to be. Right. But I actually don't think we as people lack resilience. I think we're all very resilient, because if I then asked you and everyone out there listening to the podcast, have a think about it. Have you been through a challenge or are going through a challenge currently?
Yes. Well, everyone is, I'm sure, to some level.
Everyone's answering yes, of some different shape and size. We've all experienced change and challenge. Just think about the pandemic over the last 3 years and all the change and challenge that brought to the world. We're all saying yes. We're all sitting here listening, saying, yeah, I've been through a challenge. I've been through probably more than one challenge. I've probably been through plenty, and I've been through it. I think that's the key there. We've been through it, so we are resilient. The problem is, and what we need to get better at doing, is managing where we focus our time and energy. I think that is so much more important than actually wanting or needing to be resilient. We're already resilient. We will get through the challenge, but that challenge will seem a lot harder than it is if we're constantly focusing on the challenge rather than what we can do within the challenge, where we're spending our time and energy. So it's not so much we need to be more resilient, we need to be better at where we're focusing our time and energy, if that makes sense.
And I love how you said this, because I think something couples with it that comes to mind, it's attitude, right? Like you could have very much been a victim, felt really sorry for yourself, said, you know what, like this is my life and I'm just going to go down and down and down. But you've maintained a level of gratitude, you've embraced resilience. Your attitude is something that just amazes me. So can you touch on that? I mean, what has enabled you, and what advice can you give to people? I think it's about changing attitude, to change their attitude to life, because it goes hand in hand. I think how you spend your time is extremely important. And then it goes with
100%. 100%. Could not agree with you more. And I think it's going to sound really cliche. I'm just going to put it out there, and you're probably going to go, oh yeah, we've heard it all before. But it is really this simple, which is having the ability to calculate the control you have over any given situation.
Amazing.
And when you're calculating that control, if you're focusing your time and your energy on the things that you can't control, the things that you wish were different, the things that you wish you could change, but you can't, let's be honest, we've all got those in different aspects of our life. And like you just said, no one would blame me if I was the victim, if I felt sorry for myself, if I sat in a dark room and cried every day. I would probably still get through 10 years after losing my eyesight, and people would still hear my story and go, oh, that's so resilient. To be able to lose your eyesight and still be here, still living your life, like, good on you, you're so resilient. We're all resilient, but like you said, the attitude of that person as the victim is so much different to somebody who embraces their situation, takes ownership of it and goes, look, there's so much of this that I can't control. I can't control the fact that I'm blind, but I can control so much of every single day. I can control where I focus my time and energy. I can control my mindset, my effort, my energy, what time I get up, what I do with what I say, how I act every single day. So it's that simple in terms of calculating control and focusing the majority of your time and energy on the things you can control rather than the things you can't. But I'm not saying ignore the things you can't control and pretend they don't exist. Because that doesn't work either. Like, they're still there. You've still got to work with them. Don't work against them, but don't spend too much time and energy focusing on them, because they're never going to change.
Oh, I'm so happy you shared this. I just think that your mindset and your attitude are incredible. I hope people are taking notes through this interview, but seriously, your just your mindset. I'm so excited to tap into this more. But Benny, can you share a specific strategy? I know it's hard when I use the word strategy because it seems like a blueprint, but or maybe it's a mindset shift that helped you really navigate through your darkest moments, because I'm sure that there were many. And I actually remember you saying that you were in almost like a denial, like you went to school and you were playing cricket with your friends, like going, I'm gonna get the ball, like just little things like that. Like how did you navigate through these dark moments?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I probably didn't realize it at the time. And I'm
Yeah.
going to talk you through what I should have done compared to what I did do, because hindsight, as we know, is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And when I heard those words in that hospital, Ben, you'll be blind for life. I had my mum there, I had my dad there. Mum burst into tears, and I knew how serious it was because my dad started crying. And it was probably the first time in my entire life that I'd ever heard my dad cry. So
Wow.
my family, my friends, my teachers at school, everybody that knew and cared about me, they were all grieving, they were all upset. Yet sitting there when I heard those words and had mum and dad crying beside me, I had a choice to make. I had a choice that, looking back now, was 110% within my control. And I thought, I feel like crying. I absolutely feel the same way that mum and dad do right now. I'm scared. I don't know what the future is going to hold. There's so much uncertainty, so much unknown, and all I want to do is cry. However, if mum and dad see me crying, that might upset them more. So maybe if I don't cry and put on a brave face, that might help them think that I'm okay and help us move forward. Right. So that's exactly what I did. I chose to put on a brave face and I said, Mum, Dad, look, it's not a big deal. I've only lost my eyesight. There's so many worse things that could have happened. There's so many other people
Amazing.
worse off out there. Let's just get on with it. And I think in that particular moment, it did help. It helped mum and dad. It picked their spirits up a little bit, keep them future focused. Let's focus on what we can do, what's possible, and let's keep moving forward. The problem was that then became a pattern and a habit that I fell into day in and day out.
Wow.
So every pole I ran into, wall I ran into, step I tripped over, glass of water I knocked over and broke, everything that was going wrong, frustrating me as I sort of was learning and adapting and adjusting to living this new life as someone who couldn't see. All of those moments were adding up and I was bottling them up, but I'd fallen into this habit of putting on a brave face. Every time somebody asked me how I was coping, how I was going, I had that same brave face, automatic response, keeping this sort of wall up saying, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm sweet, I'm great. You know, nothing worries me.
Yes.
And they would just go, oh, Ben's coping so well, he's so resilient. It took 2 years of me continually bottling things up, putting on this brave face until that finally all broke down and didn't work anymore because that bottle was full. Our bottles can only take so much before we need to pour some out. And it was just after my 18th birthday, I'd gotten back to water skiing. I broke my ankle water skiing.
Wow.
I was then in a wheelchair, blind, at home by myself for my 18th birthday. And even on my 18th birthday, when you paint that picture, blind, at home, in a wheelchair by yourself, I had people ringing me, people offering to be there with me. And I'm going, no, it's fine. It's just a birthday. It's no big deal. I'll have a great day. It's sweet. I'm at home. Brave face. People came over, sung happy birthday. Hey, Ben, how was your day? How was your birthday? Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. I loved it. Of course I didn't love it. Like it was a shit birthday, right? But 2 weeks after that, my dad came into my bedroom after he got home from work, asked me how I was. I gave him the same brave face response. Yeah, not bad. How was your day? Just automatic. He asked me again halfway through the conversation. I said, Dad, you know me, you know I'm fine. Nothing worries me. I'm all good. And I don't know if he could tell something was a bit off, but he asked a third time on the way out.
Wow.
And I burst into tears for the first time since losing my eyesight. I hadn't cried in 2 years.
Wow.
And I finally let that bottle out, let everything pour out of that bottle. The hurt, the frustration, the anger, the upset. I'm going, Dad, I hate this. I hate being blind. This sucks. I wish this was different. Why did this happen to me? All these thoughts and feelings that I just continually bottled up, I finally let out. And that vulnerability, letting somebody in, allowing somebody to understand what was really going on, as hard as it was in that moment, it was as if this weight had lifted off my shoulders. It was as if all of a sudden, not only had I been in a tunnel with no light at the end, not that I'd see it anyway, but now I felt like there was light at the end of the tunnel, but there was also somebody in the tunnel with me that got it.
Oh, powerful.
Like there's this amazing quote that a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
And it's so true, because we can only do so much if we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders by ourselves. All of a sudden, I felt lighter. I felt like I had more energy to embrace the situation, because for those 2 years, as much as from the outside, it looked as if I was coping really well, a lot of my focus within that bottle was focusing on the fact that I was blind, the what ifs and the why me's.
Yes.
The what could have been, the what should have been. And that was holding me back. So this whole sort of moment was a turning point for me to learn the value of vulnerability, the power of letting somebody in, because by sharing where I was at, how I was feeling, that then gave me so much more room in my life to start focusing on what I could do and what I could control, rather than just carrying the weight of this bottle behind this brave face. And I'll be honest, I don't think I could have carried it for much longer. Like, it was so good that my dad pushed in that conversation.
Yes.
But I'm sure that when he asked the third time, I could have easily gone, no, Dad, seriously, I'm fine. Just go away. And he probably would have. But I made the choice that was within my control to go, I can't hold this in any longer and I need to let it out. So it was definitely a two-way street there, with him continuing to probe and ask the question, and me then finally making that decision to be vulnerable and let somebody in, let that guard down, put the ego aside. And that was life-changing.
I think like that is the epitome of bravery, to be honest, because I know, coming from, I'm an immigrant mentality, I'm not good at asking for things or leading on to emotions. And I admire you, because I think so many people listening need to hear this. And also, just, you said something really important that I want to reiterate. You said that you were no longer focused on the should have, must have, what could have been. And I think it's so important that, despite the odds, that we look towards what is in the now and what we could do. And I think the only way to get there is to be vulnerable, right? And share our feelings with others. But Benny, for people that are facing unexpected obstacles in their lives, you've achieved amazing things. And as I said, your attitude is second to none. What advice could you give to others facing unexpected obstacles in their lives or challenges right now?
I think, first of all, you've got to accept the fact that challenges are always going to come. Like you said, there's no point looking at the what ifs, the why me's, the what could have been, the what should have been. The challenges are guaranteed. Life guarantees us one thing, and that is change. With change comes challenge. Our attitude towards that challenge is so important. So I learned the hard way that by focusing too much on the what ifs and the why me's, that was only going to hold me back. But with every single challenge that comes our way, challenges turn into, if we're willing to look for them, opportunities to learn and grow and develop. Like, there's this perception, right? If I said to you right now, okay, tomorrow you are going to be faced with a really big new challenge that's unexpected that you're not going to see coming.
Yes.
How does that make you feel?
I would say nervous, but I know I'm different to other people. I'm not just saying I'm different because I'm different, because I haven't had a straight path, if I'm being vulnerable. I haven't had things handed to me. So I'm up for the challenge, but not knowing what it is a whole different story.
Yeah, 100%. And like you say, through your experience, through developing your own resilience and your own story, you go, look, I've been through plenty of challenges before. But a lot of people would hear that and go, all right, I'm a bit scared. I'm scared of the unknown. I'm scared of challenge. And there's this negative connotation with challenge and adversity.
100%.
But by shifting that mindset to, okay, if things aren't going my way, if I'm faced with a challenge, stuck in a rut, whatever type of adversity it is, you need to shift that attitude to be looking for the opportunity within that challenge. When things aren't going your way, there's an opportunity to grow, develop, get better in an area, even if it's just learning the skills to overcome that challenge. So the next time something like that happens, it is no longer a challenge. It's just part of your normal way of operating, being, and you just go, oh yeah, when this happened last time, we did this, this, and this, implemented this strategy, and we'll do that again. Actually, we'll do it better this time.
Yes.
Like, challenges provide us opportunities to grow in our business, to excel and get better if we're prepared to take them. The problem is the negative connotation, this sort of reoccurring story that exists. We're fearful of challenges, but we shouldn't be fearful. Challenges should give us fire. Challenges should excite us. We should be going, right, can't wait for the next big challenge because it's going to give us an opportunity that we don't currently have.
Totally.
We want to develop this hunger for challenge rather than this fear of challenge.
Definitely. And I always say, out of adversity is born advantage. And I think this is so important. Hey guys, so if you are enjoying this episode, if you have gotten value from this episode and it has changed your life by teaching you things, I'm going to ask you a huge favor. If you would subscribe, like, follow, and share with people so we can bring more incredible guests to the $1 Million Branders podcast to serve you better, so you can make more money in your business, in your life, and accelerate your growth into becoming the $1 million brand that I know is possible for you. Thank you, and my greatest appreciation to you. How do you find the opportunities though within adversity? Because I know you've done this on a whole new level. I mean, you've done the Kokoda track. We'll talk about things that you've done before, the water skiing.
Yeah, I think it's another good question, because you don't just see it straight away. I mean, you've just heard that 2 years of bottling things up.
Yes.
And letting those things weigh me down. And I use that word letting because one of my biggest regrets, if I'm going to be completely honest,
Yes.
and vulnerable, is not opening up to someone sooner, not being vulnerable sooner.
Oh.
Because once I started opening up, once I was vulnerable with the challenges that I was facing, then the feelings, the emotions that I was dealing with because of that, because they're all connected. All of our challenges are different. What you've been through, Jazzy, compared to what I've been through, they are different. But how those challenges make us feel are the same.
Definitely.
Right? Or very similar. The feelings that we all experience as human beings are very universal when it comes to the challenges we face. It's the challenges that are unique to us because we're all unique as people, right?
Absolutely.
So we've, like I'm saying, we've all got different challenges. The feelings are the same. By not holding those feelings in, by sharing those feelings, going back to that quote, problem shared is a problem halved. All of a sudden, when you've got other people around you to share those feelings with, share that situation with, share those challenges with, all of a sudden you get different perspectives.
Absolutely.
Okay? And it's 100% why there's so many podcasts out there that exist that do the guest interview type thing. The different perspectives that we listen to, learn from, empathize with, all of a sudden we're getting ideas from. Oh, well, if they can do that, maybe then this is possible for me. if they've been through that challenge is similar to mine. I felt a similar way when I was in that time in my life, right? So therefore, maybe this is possible. So I'd take, let's take David Goggins, for example. Amazing Navy SEAL, ultra runner, held the world record for pull-ups. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to do any of those things.
Or
But
you
when
might.
I listen to his audio books, I go, look, completely different challenge. What he grew up with and some of the stuff he experienced with domestic violence and a broken family and all of that, very different to my challenge.
Yes.
However, the feelings he described, feeling alone, misunderstood, bottling things up, they're all the same feelings that I felt. Now look at what he's been able to achieve. He was able to achieve that because he took inspiration from what other people had achieved.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden I take inspiration from what he's achieved and go, maybe I can start focusing on what's possible, coming back to that same simple principle of focusing more of my time and energy into what I can control instead of what I can't.
Absolutely. And the one thing I've noticed about you, I mean, you invest so much time in just making yourself better. I've never seen you, compare yourself to others or go, I'm going to do this or that. Like, you do it to shine within yourself and to shine very brightly. But something a lot of people do is they become very comfortable with being comfortable. How important do you think it is to remain, I'm going to call it being uncomfortable, although I know a lot of people listening to this hate that word, but it's true. I think you have to be uncomfortable in order to keep growing. And in your case, I mean, you couldn't be tied to one scent, which is sight, right? So how important do you think it is to keep being uncomfortable in your life in order to grow?
So important, right? And don't give yourself the choice. That's the thing with comfort.
Amazing.
When it's the easy choice to be comfortable, then that's what we naturally do. We all want to be comfortable. Being uncomfortable is unnatural. Being comfortable is a natural want and desire. So whenever there's an opportunity to go, let's take the easy path, let's take the comfortable path, that's going to be the one we naturally lean towards going down.
Yes.
Right. This challenge that I'm doing now, 3249 blind this year, running 3,249 Ks, that's on average running 10 kilometers every single day, rain, hail or shine, in and amongst speaking all around the world in different states, different cities, places that I'm unfamiliar with, blind, having to run in all of those places. That's not comfortable. It's not comfortable for me to have to wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and go, right, now I've got to get ready to go for a run in a city that I don't know where I am, unfamiliar with. I might have to book a taxi to drop me off to a local oval. I might have to do a slow lap with my cane first to see if there's any obstacles. And then I'm going to have to start running. And I'm going to have to run there for an hour and a half, and then get a taxi back to a hotel. None of that is appealing to anyone. But it's by doing the hard things that we achieve the best things. Like, we don't grow from sitting on the couch and being comfortable. We don't grow from going, you know what, if I just keep doing the same thing and earning the same amount of money and not growing my business, then how do we get to the next level? How do we go, well, we've actually achieved something this year or today or this week? You know what I mean?
Definitely. And it's always, our person gets so much better when we are going through those uncomfortable times. I know, even looking back at my own journey, my greatest growth came from those moments of being uncomfortable. But is there a slogan or something that you tell yourself in those moments? I mean, you're going to have a lot now. This run that you're doing is incredible. We're going to speak a little bit more about how people can support you. But in the uncomfortable moments, is there something you tell yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I ask myself a question. I ask myself a question every single day, probably multiple times a day. And that is, are you making the most?
Oh.
And making the most of the current situation, the time, the people around you, my potential. Am I making the most? And if the answer is no, then, well, first of all, the answer shouldn't be no. So what do I need to do to make the answer yes?
Wow.
I don't want the answer to be no. It's pretty simple. So I am just dedicated every single day to making the most. So if I wake up and I snooze my alarm for an hour, am I making the most of that time? Yes or no? Answer's no. Right. As soon as that alarm goes off, you get up, you get out. The hour before bed, am I making the most of my time if I go, you know what, I'm just going to lay here. It's been a big day. I'm going to scroll on social media. I'm going to watch some, well, not watch YouTube. I'm going to listen to some YouTube, maybe read a couple of articles, and then I don't know, eat some junk food and go off to sleep.
Yes.
Is that making the most of that hour? No, I'm actually going to be better off if I'm stretching, getting ready for the next day, prepping my hydration for my run, getting the home gym set up for my next workout, all of those things. All of a sudden, when that alarm goes off the next day, I'm much more likely to be in a mindset to make the most then, because I'm not going, 4:30, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Oh, I'm not going to get out of bed because it's going to be too hard to make the most because I should have done this last night. So if I'm continually making the most, it becomes this snowball effect that gets easier and easier to keep pushing.
That is so powerful. And might I just add that I think you're going to give David Goggins a run for his money in the next couple of years. I can't wait to see what you do.
Well, I don't know about that. He's a different beast. But I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I truly believe that we're all just human. I don't think anyone's more talented than anybody else. I just think there's harder workers out there. So if I continue to make the most, who knows what's possible.
Absolutely. And Benny, can you discuss the importance with us? I know I've always set audacious goals, right? But what is the importance of setting audacious goals, and how can they propel you to personal growth?
They are hugely important. And I talk about the difference between limited goals and limitless goals, right? When I first lost my eyesight, in that first 2 years, things being bottled up, the focus being much more towards what I couldn't control, therefore focusing a lot of my time and energy on the fact that I was blind.
Yes.
I was setting goals like, oh, because I'm blind, I can't play basketball anymore. Maybe I could be an assistant basketball coach. Maybe I'd be able to, I can't be the coach because I need to be able to see to be the coach. So maybe I could work my way up to be an assistant basketball coach and just help out because I'm blind. Therefore, that goal is being limited by something that I can't control, which is the fact that I'm blind. Or maybe because I'm blind, what sport can I do to get back into participating in sport? What would be easy being blind? So obviously you can't do basketball, you can't play football, you can't water ski, you can't motorbike ride, but maybe I'll look into swimming, because as long as I can swim in a straight line, I'll be within a lane. There'll be no one else within my lane that I need to be able to see. So I started following the swimming pathway because I thought that swimming would be one of the easiest sports to set a goal amongst because I was blind. Then I have this whole turning point moment where my focus shifts from limiting everything I'm doing based on those things in my life that I can't control to going, right, throw all that to the side. That's only 1%, 2% of the situation. Let's focus on the rest of what we can control here. Instead of having limited goals and setting limited goals with those limiting factors being all the things in our situation that we can't control, if those didn't exist, what goals are we going to set for ourselves? That's when I started setting the goals like, I'd love to water ski in the Southern 80. That was something that when I was a kid and I went up and watched, I used to see these boats come past with skis behind them at 150, 200 Ks an hour and go, far out, that's crazy, that's ridiculous, that'd be scary, but that'd be awesome to do one day. If I was still in that previous mindset, that goal isn't even a consideration because that just gets stopped at, but Ben, you're blind, so you can't do that. Why don't you focus on swimming? Why don't you focus on being an assistant basketball coach? So that's the shift. The shift is put all the limiting things in your life, all of the things that you can't control in your business that make up your current situation right now. If none of those things exist, and it's very much ideal world, what would you love to achieve? And I still do it every single day. I write my goals down every single morning as if I've already achieved them, and they're audacious. So things that I'm working towards at the moment, I've never run a marathon. I'm only just starting my running journey with 3249 blind, but I'm writing down every single day. I have run a marathon in under 4 hours, and that will become less and less and better. And there's a whole range of other things that go with that, from business goals to financial goals to family goals to fitness goals. But I'm writing those down as if I've achieved them. But there is no way that if I'm focusing on the fact that I'm blind, that I'm setting half the goals that I'm setting for myself every single day and reminding myself of them every single morning and every single night.
Wow, I'm literally speechless. And I want to go into a little bit in more detail about the water skiing and also the Kokoda Trail, because when I think of you, Benny, in my mind, I think limitless, I think no excuses. Can you walk us through the prep, like for your water skiing journey, the Southern 80? Because I want people to know and be inspired by your journey, because you were against competitors that were able-bodied, that could see, and you probably did better than most of them. So can you
definitely didn't win, that's for sure.
Yes.
Definitely wasn't a podium finish, but did do well compared to a lot of the competitors on the day, like you say. But I think nothing comes easy. There's so much hard work involved, no matter what the situation is, and the hard work was only amplified based on the fact that I couldn't see. So not only did I have to train physically, we then had to build up the trust and the communication within the team. Like the first time
Unbelievable.
that first of all, I had to have a team willing to tow a blind skier. That was half the problem. So once I got the team that said, yeah, let's give this a go, let's see what's possible here, then we had to not only train from a physical point of view, but the first time I got up behind the boat, the observer, through this helmet that I was wearing with a waterproof communication system in it, they're saying, right, Ben, left turn starting now. And I'm going to my right because the observer's facing me and their lefts and rights are different to my lefts and rights.
Oh.
So we had to work through all of these little teething issues and build up a solid process that was foolproof. So then we put measures in place with signs at the back of the boat. So the observer had my lefts and rights there. So every time they looked at me, naturally, they then see those lefts and rights, which are the opposite of theirs, to give them that reminder that if I'm giving directions for me to ski left or right, he would then see that that's my right or my left. So by doing that, we then built up trust, because the first ski I went on, I let go after about 5 bends going, how are we going to do this? If you're going to get your lefts and rights wrong, what are we going to do? And we were able to adapt and adjust and overcome as we went, going, right, let's stop, let's think about this. Because when you're going at 150 k's an hour, we're talking split-second decisions. Yes. We're not talking that the observer's got time to put their hands up in front of them and go, right, if I want Ben to go left, then I actually need to tell him to go right. By the time you've thought about that, the corner's done.
Yes.
You're onto the next straight, you're onto the next corner. So this has to be instantaneous. So then we thought about it as a team, worked out how it was going to work best, and then adapt and overcome. It was sort of that simple, over and over again, adapt and overcome, adapt and overcome. So not being afraid to try different ways to do things differently to ultimately achieve the same result that all the other able-bodied competitors were striving to do. We just had a different set of circumstances that we were working with. We
Unreal.
we couldn't control the fact that I was blind and had to wear a helmet and had to be spoken through the helmet too, because that was just the given. It
Yes.
was what could we control within that to make the best of this situation.
Unbelievable. And adapt and overcome and then pivoting and getting it right. There's so much practice goes into that. And I feel like that's such a life lesson, but also for business. It totally applies to business. And I've seen you speak on stage and you can literally hear a pin drop. And sometimes when you speak on stage, I literally think to myself, the etiquette and the grace that you speak with, all those moments, every single people actually watch you, and I think they forget that you're actually blind and you don't have eyesight, because every single movement in your body is captivating. But what do you think it takes to actually train towards being the best in the world as a speaker? I mean, you've achieved such high levels of success. And guys, I encourage you, if your organization is looking for a speaker that can not only enhance your results within your business, but show people what they're truly capable of, get in touch with Ben. But what do you think it takes to be a great speaker and to create a brand that I'm going to call you a showstopper brand, because I think that's what
Love it. I love the showstopper label. I'll absolutely take that. It takes one thing. It takes relentless hard work.
yes.
And I say that because, like I said, I've got no special talent. If anything, I've got a little
Beg to
bit less.
differ, actually. But
If anything, I've got less because I'm starting from that point of not being able to see. So
Yeah.
things are harder from the get-go. But no matter what business, what goal you're working towards, personal or professional, to achieve it and become the best in the world at it, it just takes relentless hard work and outworking the competition. And that's as simple as it is. The harder you work, the better you get, and the greater the advantage you will then gain over the competition, because that's the world we live in. But if you're only prepared to work at 80% or 90%, there's someone out there working at 110%. And therefore they're gaining the advantage. They're the best in the world, and they're what you're chasing. The harder you work, the better you're going to get. So whether it's my running, whether it's my speaking, the same principle applies. Whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's social media. And I'm not perfect by any means. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying
None
that
of us are.
I'm not saying that I've got all of these things nailed, but I know in principle, the harder I work, the better I get. The days off that I take, the times where I'm not pushing myself and I take that easier, more comfortable path, am I getting better at the same rate that I am when I'm up at 4:30, have done my run, then do my workout, then I'm in the office early, then I'm doing long hours. And then because I've done that, I have the time and the energy to come home and be a really present husband and dad and all of that to my wife and my kids. Then all of a sudden, I've got more time for that. So I'm a better husband, I'm a better dad as well. And that hard work has allowed me more time to do those things that I enjoy as well, rather than if I don't put in that hard work early up in the morning, then I'm coming home feeling, oh, I probably should do a bit more work. I'll work a bit later. Now I'm half focusing on being a husband and dad, but I'm also half focusing on work. I'm half focusing that I should probably go and do half a workout before I get to bed that night before another day starts. The harder I work, the better I am. And it's as simple as that. The harder you work, the more consistently you do it, the better you are.
There's such a pattern in terms of consistency. So thank you for touching that. I think every successful person, it does take consistency, and no one ever sees the hard work that goes beyond, just when the lights are off and no one's left in the office, and the hard work.
Hard work isn't enjoyable. None of us love it.
No.
None of us love the hard work.
Yes.
But if the goal is something that we're passionate about, then we don't necessarily feel it as hard work. We feel like it's part of the mission that we're on, and then it will help us gain that advantage that we're out to achieve that sort of being the best at what we're wanting to be.
Definitely, especially in terms of energy. I feel like when you're passionate, and also you just got to love it deep down, I think, whatever it is that you're doing, then you'll re-energize yourself in those dark moments. But what do you think it takes in today's times to build $1 million brand? And what is $1 million brand to you?
Oh, you should be the one answering this question. You're the $1 million branding expert, I think. But to me, to me, $1 million brand is something that people connect with. I think there's that much brand exposure out there, and there's that many platforms for people to get thousands and millions of brands in front of people's eyes every single day. To have a brand that connects to people, that people remember, that people recognize, and it actually means something to people, rather than it just being, oh, that's a cool brand, or they're doing cool things. The brand that you think of at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning when my alarm goes off, that I go, oh, I'll throw some examples out there. David Goggins, stay hard is his message. I don't think of David Goggins when I wake up in the morning. I don't go, oh, I wonder what David Goggins is doing right now. I think of his mantra, his message, his brand, which is stay hard. I think of Ned Brockman's message, which is just show up, right? And he's done some amazing things, but I don't necessarily think of him. I think of the brand, which is show up. And it's no different to me with making the most. I don't want people to think of me when they wake up in the morning or when they're faced with challenge, adversity, and are looking for that edge or that resilience to help them overcome that challenge. I want them to think of that question, are they making the most?
Yes.
So it's not just creating a brand that looks cool. It's not just creating a brand that's successful. To me, $1 million brand is something that's meaningful, something that we can connect to, and something that we can lean on, something that actually becomes a part of our life.
Wow. Okay. You got me speechless, absolutely speechless, but thank you for that brilliant answer. And I'm so excited to discuss with people your initiative, which is the 3249 Blind Initiative. I know we touched on it a little bit before, but mostly I want to know, how can people support you? Where can they go? And how can they stalk you online and connect with you, Benny?
You can stalk me anywhere you like, because I won't see you stalking me. Siri might alert me if you start liking things or following me, but that'll be about the long and the short of it there. But you can basically follow 3249 Blind on all of the major social media platforms. So everything from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok to YouTube, Strava. If there's runners out there, they can follow along with all the progress there, all the kilometers done. And 3249 Blind is raising funds for a Australian charity called TIACS, and TIACS is a mental health support service provider for tradies, truckies, farmers, blue collar workers and their families, because there is still such a strong stigma that exists. A lot of those people, a lot of my friends, my mates, my family around the country, and I still see to this day them doing what I did for far too long, which is bottling things up, putting on a brave face, because there's that stigma that exists that if you speak up, if you talk about your feelings, if you show vulnerability, it's a sign of weakness, which is crap. It's not a sign of weakness. I have learnt firsthand the power of being vulnerable and that advantage I was able to gain by sort of sharing those problems with people, having people listen, and feel so much lighter and better off from doing so. I want to be able to start conversations, smash that stigma, and yeah, you can follow along on all of the major social media platforms, or you can go and check out TIACS as well, and there's a page on there that's keeping the run updated.
And your website, benpettingill.com. I'll put the link below anyway. But I just want to say, I'm so proud to know you. I'm so proud of you as a human and who you are. And it's just such an honor to be connected with you. And thank you for so graciously always showing up for making the most, for showing other people that they can make the most too. What an inspiring interview, and I can't wait to see what's next. Just remember me when you are standing next to David Goggins on stage doing a challenge with him, because I will.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
what an honor it was to have you today. Thank you so much, Benny, for joining us on the $1 Million Branders podcast.
Nah, appreciate it, Jazzy, and keep up the amazing work that you're doing and keep making the most.
Thank you so much.